So now in Portland's afternoon news, we're going to sentence today. The parents of a Michigan boy who shot and killed 4 of his classmates, they were sentenced today. James and Jennifer Crumbley will serve 10 to 15 years in prison after being convicted of manslaughter in this case. So now in Portland's afternoon news, we're going to talk with trial attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. Jeremy is founder of the TexasDefenseFirm.com, and he's been doing this a long time. Welcome back, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me.
You've handled over 200 jury cases in your time, but this one seems to be pretty rare from a legal standpoint. Parents prosecuted for a child's actions. Have you seen many like this?
I don't think we've seen any quite like this, where the parents are essentially on the hook for their child's school shooting. Certainly parents can be dragged into court if their kid causes a car accident or does vandalism, things like that, from a civil standpoint at least. So this has obviously got a lot of folks' attention. A very tragic situation to be sure, but also highly irregular for parents to be going to prison for it.
You know, prosecutors in the trials, and they had separate trials for the Crumbleys, said that the parents were criminally negligent for providing a gun to their child as a Christmas present and then also ignoring signs that he had mental health problems and that he was potentially violent. How difficult is something like that, do you think, to prove in court?
It's pretty difficult. When we have civil cases, the standard in a lot of negligence cases is just reasonable care. There's a concept in criminal law, if you're in law school, criminal law 101, it's called mens rea, and that's Latin for the guilty mind. We punish what people do with their mind, what their intentions are. Negligence is inherently not about intent. It's about omission. It's about fault. And then there's negligence, right? What's the worst thing that's going to happen if I make a bad right-hand turn? And then there's gross negligence, right? What happens if I take a bowling ball and throw it off this overpass? So when you're looking at that degree of gross negligence, that's kind of what these folks the Crumbleys were prosecuted for.
You're listening to Portland's Afternoon News, and we're taking a deeper dive into the case of the Crumbleys. They are the parents of the Michigan boy who shot and killed several students at his school near Detroit. Our guest is trial attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. So, Jeremy, let's look at the other side of this, too. Lawyers for the parents argued that it was impossible for the Crumbleys to know that their son would become a killer in a mass shooting. Do you think they took the best approach?
I think the proof's in the pudding. They took second place in this trial. Sometimes you just got to do the best with what you're given. And a lot of times in doing criminal defense work, you're going to be handed some pretty difficult cases. You do the best with what you can. You've got to basically prepare for two cases. You've got to prepare for a guilt and innocence case, and then you've got to prepare for what you would call a mitigation case, right? If everything goes wrong, then what do we do? Understanding that in a case like this, sorry is never, ever going to be good enough. So you got to take a step beyond that. And you've got to take a deep dive into the parents' decision-making process. So there's a real lot to prepare for on the defense side. And again, sometimes it can be a mountain too tall.
All right. And the Crumbleys, as we've said, are looking at some pretty serious prison time here. Do you think these sentences, as some people have suggested, are meant to send a message to parents everywhere?
I think that's what the judge certainly intended. And I think she even said kind of something to that effect. And basically what the judge and the prosecutors want to do is say, look, parents, you can't stick your head in the sand, right? We all look at our own problems with these rose-colored glasses, right? My dog didn't bite me on purpose, or my kid's not in really bad shape. Well, when we're playing with firearms, ammunition, this type of mental health, I think the court wants to be very, very clear, and the prosecutor there wants to be very clear that, look, we're going to drag you into court and you can do prison time too.
Do you think, though, this is a slippery slope given the impact, for example, that social media can have on kids and the inability of parents to constantly monitor their kids' use of social media?
That's always the danger, right? And I think what you have to do is I think what the prosecution would tell you is, well, you got to look at these facts. The Crumbleys were in school that morning. They got a distress call that morning because their son was doing some very alarming things. I think he was drawing pictures of guns on some of his homework, and the guidance counselor brought them in. They bought him a gun, a weapon 3, 4, 5 days ahead of time and just didn't secure it. And then they left the kid in school. They had the chance to take him out and that morning, and they left him in school and said, well, we'll deal with this tomorrow. Their reason was, we have to work, which I get that. I think all parents get that. This is a really, really tight nexus. I don't think that any of us, I think we all hope that we're not going to get prosecuted because we didn't hug our kids enough, or because, darn it, if we had only made them eat the vegetables at one time, that this would all be okay. I don't think they're getting prosecuted for that. You've just got a really, really tight nexus of facts. And yeah, the slippery slope is always what you're worried about.
Yeah, I would agree in this case that there were some specific facts that I think led to the conclusion we reached. Jeremy, as always, we appreciate your expertise. Thanks for all the time today.
Thank you.